I call to order public hearing. First is presentation of the FY26 revised budget. Number 3, Mr. Jim Servant, Chief Financial Officer, information and discussion. Mr. Servant.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mesa, as you know, I've been working for the last effectively 7 months on revising several years worth of AFRs and budgets. I'm pleased to announce that that process is now completed. And as a result of that, we're doing another revised budget to recognize all of the rest of the carry forwards into the 2026 school year. I've got, if you look at this chart here, what it's essentially showing is where we were at the end of 2025 in the first column. What was the adopted budget for 2026? What was the revised budget in December? And what is now basically hopefully the last of the revisions from prior years that are occurring as of this budget adoption. The M&O budget has essentially increased over the December budget by $1.572 million. That's a result of carry forwards coming forward and the corrections within all of the budget accounts. The classroom site fund went down roughly $255,000. That's for also budget carry forwards and adjustments moving forward from prior years. The grants have basically increased essentially on their own as additional grants and carry forward amounts are given to the district and recognized in the books. So therefore we see a increase of 1.4 million in grants. The good news is that our enrollment appears at this point in time to be steady. In other words, the initial enrollment of students for average daily membership was 4,432 when we adopted the budget. We were looking at it from a positive standpoint. However, we knew that there would be a decrease. That decrease took it down to 3,949 students. And actually, as of tonight, the number is sitting at 3,948. So that's only a drop in one student, which means for all intents and purposes, it appears that our enrollment ADM has stabilized. In the Group B weight, which includes special education students and also additional money for K-3 learners, ELL programs, and so forth, that is held steady. That has the same weight. It has not gone up since December. It's only down 2 students, which again shows that stability in student counts is actually, we're enjoying that benefit now. There's been no large swings. Additional monies or additional funding such as ELL K3, free and reduced paid lunches and one-time monies also increased our weighted student count by 75 students. So overall, the district has additional budget, more than we had before in M&O. That's looking good, and this is pretty much where we'll be at the end of the year for budget purposes. Would be in that range. It's of $40 million. On the capital front, that number has essentially been adjusted all the way through the capital losses and so forth. And with the application of this year's budget against the loss carry forward, the district continues to have a deficit in the capital funds account. That fund will slowly go away as every year we receive funding of about 2.5 million in capital. Plus, it would also reflect any benefits and so forth from the sale of assets and other savings within the other accounts that affect capital. Is there any questions from the public or from the governing board members?
Is there any questions from the public? Any questions from the governing board members? Mr. Servant, I do have a question. So just to clarify, we always get emails and we have gone in the past from the Arizona District Financial Risk Analysis. And the last one that we received this in January, well, yeah, in January, it told us, that we're still at risk. So are we going to continue getting these emails or when is that going to stop? Or, I mean, now, because you say you just revised from the previous year, so you did get the email as well, correct?
Yes. Those have several different categories. One of the risk categories is the elephant in the room, which is receivership. The other ones involve fiscal stability, overspending budget, um, and overspending capital, and weaknesses within the system according to the annual audits. From that standpoint, the district will be expected to probably be in that risk category for some time, only because the last pillar that we have to effectively eliminate is the loss in capital budget, because that was so overspent. But the district continues to make improvements on all of those areas. They will be constantly under review. We've got an audit going right now that will contain findings as well for 25 when that audit is completed. So I would expect that the risk category itself would probably go all the way down to capital within the next two to 3 years.
As long as the district's in receivership, you'll always be on the risk analysis. I don't know why they do that, because every district that I've been the receiver on, even though we've shown improvement year after year, that automatically almost puts you in a risk category as long as there's a receivership applied. You should see improvement on there. I just had a battle with them on my other district that I'm in the receiver on because of all the improvements that they've made, and they made adjustments. So as years go on, there should be noticeable improvement in regards to that. But they also look at a 5-year average, so even that takes 3 to 4 years to 40 years to before it goes off, because that was one of the arguments I just had with them. Because for the last 2 or 3 years we've been doing well, and they said, well, in 5-year averages, because prior to the receivership, there was all that in there. I said, well, then that's just a matter of time before you're going to be taken off. So you'll be on there at least another 3 to 5 years.
Are they going to come like they did in the past and present to us and kind of, because I
Scheduled to
would
come
like
in February 26th board
February
meeting.
26th?
They will be presenting on the February 26th. They just requested that and we approved that.
And did you get any feedback from the Department of Education? Because I know that you sent that intensive report to them. Did they come back with any questions? Because you had
Oh,
to
no,
report.
the Department of the State? You mean
I
from the
said,
state?
yeah.
No, I just talked to them today too. Um, no, they didn't have any questions. They seem to understand and be involved on board with everything. They have asked me, there's a bunch of new bills being proposed, and asked me to review them and see how they affect the receivership and give them feedback today. So I will be doing that over the next day or two. I just got, not all of them, but some of the bills that they wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to affect the work that I'm doing here or at any time the school is in receivership.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next I called to order regular governing board meeting. Ms. Hernandez, can you please lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Roll call.
Governing Board President, Ms. Patricia Jimenez.
Present.
Governing Board Vice President, Mr. Harry Gerwel is not in attendance tonight. Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Guzman.
Present.
Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Hernandez.
Present.
And Governing Board Member, Mr. Rudy Santa Cruz.
Present.
Thank you. Next, approval of January 29, 2026 regular governing board meeting with executive session agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote. Motion carries. Next, approve of January 15, 2026 public hearing, annual governing board reorganization, and regular governing board meeting with executive session minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes? Hearing none, call for the vote. Motion carries. Next is governing board reports. First is myself. I want to thank all the principals and for taking the time to walk with Dr. Lily Lema Mesa and I in the classrooms. Thank you very much. It's really nice to see our students engaging and learning, and that iReady. Every classroom that we went was using the iReady. Um, Another thing that I got to saw is the students are receiving some clothes and shoes over at Sutton. That's amazing. Seeing the parents also engage at Butler School and coming up with some great ideas, getting involved with their students. What you're doing at Butler, I think it's great, and I share that with you. We need to share that with every school, the parents. It's just amazing how, nowadays, like I always said, we the parents are the teachers. The teachers, we're the first teachers of our students, and the school is, and you are there for that support. But seeing how the parents are engaged and taking the initiative of helping the teachers, with their students and raising those test scores, I think it's great. Also seeing how at UDAL, the students with getting involved with our special needs students, getting involved and doing things with regular students. I think it's great. Everything that I saw at the schools was great. Even though we're under receivership, and I asked every principal, how are you doing? How's the food? How's the maintenance? How's you guys have really, thank you very much. Answers that I got from all of you, that you've been helping each other, and the schools are clean, and even gives me the chills because you care. And I thank you again for being part of this district, and just everything that I saw at the schools was great. So thank you again for taking the time to taking me around. So that's all I have. Thank you. Next is Mr. Guerrero was not here. Ms. Hernandez.
I just want to welcome, thank you, Madam President. I just want to welcome everyone here this evening. Um, just want to let you guys know that there is a lot of bugs going out there right now. Everybody's getting sick at this time. People are coming down with really serious coughs and leading to different levels of illnesses. So take care of yourselves. Be strong. Use every productive prevention that you can. Um, and with your students as well, and in your classrooms, to be able to continue moving forward. It's quite scary to see, a lot of talk that goes around in the community about our school and our district when there's illnesses as well going on top of it. And then that we're like, all our students are having to stay home because they're being sick. And we have so much going on the outside around us. So all I ask is for you guys to take precaution, be careful, and continue doing the good work and the goodwill that you guys have and your dedication to the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Santa Cruz.
Thank you. I don't have any updates right now. I just want to welcome everybody to the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Guzman.
Thank you. I don't have any report. I just want to welcome everyone for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is superintendent update.
Madam President, members of the board and ISAC community, this evening I would like to share with you our mid-year strategic plan progress report, which you have as part of your packet. Over the past several months, we have made a concerted effort and intentional effort to streamline our work toward clearly identified priorities, strategies, and goals across the district. We have done this through the revision and the revitalization of our strategic plan, which serves as our shared roadmap. Equally important, we have established a cadence for evaluation and reflection, and that rhythm for pausing, assessing where we are, and making informed adjustments as we move forward. This mid-year represents that starting point for this cycle. What you have in front of you in your board packet is an extended version of the report, which includes school level and department level details, providing transparency into processes across all of our systems. This evening, my goal is not to review every data point in the report. Instead, I would like to provide a high-level overview of the key areas where we must measure progress, explain why we measure them, and describe how this information is used to improve our outcomes for students. I will begin with Pillar 1, our educational excellence. One of our primary and key performance indicators under this pillar is the percentage of students demonstrating growth and proficiency on district benchmarks and common summative assessments. Our long-term targets are ambitious and intentionally so that we increase the percentage of students reading and math above the students that are at or above grade level by 20% annually, and decrease the percentage of students performing 2 or more grade levels below proficiency by 20% annually. At the midpoint year, we aim to see roughly half that progress, or about 10% movement toward those goals. As Dr. Lawton shared with all of us and expanded upon at our last meeting, we have met the midpoint target for reducing the number of students who are 2 or more grade levels below proficiency in math, but we're not there fully on the other measures. This is precisely why mid-year progress monitoring matters. It allows us to adjust course rather than wait until the end of the year when we do the state assessments. In addition to benchmarks, site and district leaders must rely heavily on common summative assessments because these assessments allow us to see student progress between the benchmark windows. For example, between August and December, CSAs were a key performance indicator for us. They are embedded in daily instructional practice and used by teachers during data conversations, school leaders and instructional leadership teams, and district specialists to adjust professional development and targeted supports. If you see on the side, as an example, is a dashboard that provides real-time access to this information. The dashboards are not static reports. They are decision-making tools. And here, I would also like to highlight that the most important resources for assessment lie with the teachers. They, along with their professional learning communities or PLCs, have the most precious data points, and that is the daily checks for understandings and common summative assessments that allow teachers to respond in a timely manner to how our students are learning in the content. This information is readily available on our curriculum maps as well. Another key strategy under Pillar 1 is advancing access to personalized learning. One of the tools we use is the iReady personalized instruction platforms in reading and math with a research-based target of 30 to 45 minutes per week. At mid-year, to fall within this effective and research-based guideline, our semester averages should have been ranging between 9.5 hours to 15.5 hours. These measures is important for 2 reasons. Underuse may suggest that students are not receiving adequate access to personalized supports. Overuse does not equate to better learning. Research shows excessive time on online platforms such as iReady can lead to diminishing returns on student burnout. We also monitor lesson pass rates, targeting 70 to 100% success rate. And those rates that are below indicate that to the teachers that a need for additional intervention and instruction adjustment is needed. Within the iReady platforms, teachers have access to those reports with flags for the students that need that additional support so that they can respond accordingly. Finally, under Pillar 1, we focus on what happens inside the classroom because instruction is the strongest leveler for student outcomes. Our common walkthrough looks for these three very specific indicators, regardless of the grade level or content area. Standards-based curriculum maps are used for planning and instruction. We want to see that at 100% of the time. The reason for that is that this ensures that our students are consistently assessing the grade level academic standards with appropriate rigor. Another target is access to academic language and discourse strategies. We want to see that 95% of the time because that ensures that our students gain the language acquisition and development to communicate effectively as scholars. Finally, the third target we look for is students being able to carry the cognitive load through effective strategies and content practices. We aim to see that 85% of the time to ensure that our students are actively engaging in high order thinking skills, problem solving for complex issues, and meeting the demands of mastery for the content at their level. I want to emphasize that this walkthrough form is not an evaluation tool. It is a trend monitoring instrument designed to help us anticipate learning outcomes and direct support where it's most needed. The next slides show you what the dashboards for this walkthrough look like. Thank you. If we can scroll to the next one. All right. So moving on to pillar number 2, attendance. Regular attendance is a foundation for learning. Students need to be in front of us so that they can learn. So our district goal to achieve and sustain is to achieve and sustain an average daily attendance rate of 93%. We have developed dashboards that allow leaders to monitor attendance, enrollment, and chronic absenteeism. Scroll to the next slide. We can see that. As well as the next one, additional tools and dashboards that allows us to move from reactive responses to early intervention. You can find school-specific data in your completed report related to attendance. Another key indicator is the reduction of discipline referrals and in-school suspensions. Leaders have detailed data views, again, in order to make informed decisions, along with their instructional leadership teams to identify perhaps hot spots, trends, or disproportionalities, and to respond with targeted supports. The next slide shows some of the data our leaders are able to see and disaggregate, and it's interactive. They can click on those bars and see specifically who are the students that received such discipline consequence. With this targeted support paired with positive behavior intervention systems and restorative practice, we aim to reduce the number of in-school and out-of-school suspensions annually by 35%. Staff and student wellness is also central to our strategic plan. Some of the highlights you may find from the reports in front of you for students: implementation and upcoming trainings of our PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Intervention Systems, restorative practice, student assemblies, and community partnerships are some of the things that sites have highlighted. For staff wellness, some supports that are highlighted across different schools include recognition events, professional development, access to health and mental health resources paired with an emergent district-wide culture of care strategy, which includes benefit education and mental health supports. We also measure the percentage of students, staff, and families reporting satisfaction with climate and culture. This spring, we will administer a streamlined perception survey beginning with the second week in February. A working group has intentionally and arduously worked to address concerns with spring survey fatigue while preserving the data quality. Additionally, I conducted a listening tour in December, and as I shared trends with district leadership and as part of my update last meeting, if you may recall. Data from that listening tour and the surveys beginning in February aim to inform what is working and what can be fine-tuned. Some of the recognition highlights from across the district that you will find in the report include for students, recognition for academic growth, attendance, PBIS, behaviors, leadership, and iReady progress. For staff, some of the trends included in the report are recognized through shout outs, luncheons, service awards, attendance incentives, and service excellence acknowledgments. And for families, our sites recognize them through volunteer appreciation events, PTO celebrations, and engagement opportunities such as Coffee with the Principal and other community festivals. Under Pillar 3, we track the number and the quantity of decision-making opportunities for students, families, and staff. And two-way communication plays that essential building block for trust and transparency. Examples of things that you will be able to find in the report include communication tools that are widely used across sites such as ClassDojo, text, emails, newsletters, and social media robocalls to communicate with our families, as well as engagement structures such as Coffee with the Principal, site councils, parent advisory council, student council, and of course, our very own instructional leadership teams, which I'll talk a little bit more about that. Instructional leadership teams are a critical component of a positive and results-focused leadership engagement structure. I will expand on that, like I said, in a little bit. A cornerstone of Pillar 4 is implementation of professional learning communities, also known as PLCs, across all of our schools. PLCs are critical because they focus educators on what students are learning, how they know that students are learning, how do we respond when the students have learned, and how do we respond when the students are not mastering the content yet. And I want to pause here in this next slide. I want to clarify the relationship between PLC and instructional leadership teams, because this is a common question that comes my way. An instructional leadership team, or ILT, establishes the school-wide vision, monitors the implementation of that vision throughout the year, and ensures alignment with that laser-sharp focus on student academic outcomes and well-being. ILT should be meeting weekly to monitor progress on priorities and strategies. They also meet late in the spring and summer to set plans in motion for the upcoming year. Those ILT teams are intentional in including a representative for each of the PLC teams, and other support staff also participate as part of those ILTs, such as counselors, academic coaches, interventionists, paraprofessionals, and among other staff members that are critical to the team. So now PLC, or professional learning communities, on the other hand, translate that vision into the classroom level strategies. They serve as those learning laboratories for effective practices, teachers sharing their practice and their strategies with each other. And the representation of each of those PLCs in our ILT ensures that clarity of the goals are met and that coherence of strategies are placed in action where it matters the most in the classrooms with our students. Also under Pillar 4, we are advancing the development of a standard operating procedure, or procedures, I should say, in plural. As this work continues to develop, we now have developed a centralized standard operating procedure repository so that we can house all of those procedures and easily be able to search for them as we continue to add to that repository. And we also have or getting started, I shall say, with a digital training library to ensure that the procedures are not just a written document, but understood and implemented consistently with clear professional development. Finally, on Pillar 5, focuses on the compliance with all state and federal operational requirements. Those key factors include audit readiness, state and federal reporting accuracy, internal audits, and quality assurances reviews. Each department has specific compliance responsibilities that are outlined within the report. And the purpose of that internal review is to ensure that we're prepared before any external audits occur and help us reduce the risk and increase confidence within our systems. This mid-year strategic plan progress report represents our efforts to operate through our core values of access, excellence, collaboration, and accountability. It also allows us to celebrate progress, identify gaps, and make informed adjustments. Most importantly, it helps us remain focused on what matters the most, which is our students' success. I appreciate the board's continued support as we strengthen our systems and refine our practices and continue to build our momentum together. That concludes my report. However, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll just move on because usually in reports we don't ask questions. But we'll definitely get with you, Dr. Lilly. Thank you. Next is new business information, discussion, and action. Approval of the FY26 revised budget. Number 3, Mr. Jim Servant, Chief Financial Officer. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Servant?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mesa, this is basically the point where the board would approve the budget revision number 3 upon approval, and at the end of the meeting, it will be transmitted to the Arizona Department of Education School of Finance and will go down officially as the 3rd revision.
Does the board have any questions? Hearing none, call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Next is grants update. Mr. Servant, Chief Financial Officer, information and discussion.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mesa, I let our grants director, Aaron Harris, take over at this and discuss our grant update.
Thank you, Mr. Serban. Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Mesa Lima, members of the Isaac community. This evening, I will be presenting on 3 items: FY26 fiscal year 26 grant updates, our FY26 ADE on-site monitoring process, and our FY27 ESEA, Elementary Secondary Education Act, grant application, the process for grants Title 1, 2, and 4. So during the December governing board meeting, I presented on the completion reports. We submitted our completion reports in a timely manner. They were approved. We received the carry forward funds, and we added those to the current FY26 budgets. Those amounts were approved, and we began our grant reimbursements for all of our grants that have been approved. And here I'm presenting the financials for current month, January year 2026. Cumulative year to date, we have drawn down $1,618,149.54. We are current with our drawdowns. Now we will move into the final allocations. ADE each year, they reconcile our grant financials based on our student enrollment counts, our poverty counts, Department of Education counts, census data, and again, local student enrollment. And so with that, we had a period where our grants were closed at the Department of Education from the 20th through the 27th of January because of the reallocation of funds. So we have been notified that we will have additional funds, but we are waiting until January 30th for the final amounts before we report out because there are still changes within our grants. These changes, again, are out of our control because these are formula grants that we have no control over here in the district. So again, this matters because we will receive either increases or decreases in our funding. So we'll have to adjust our budgets accordingly at the district level and working with our principals to adjust their budgets in the current fiscal year because we're in second semester and we want to make sure that our site leaders have what they need for the second semester and summer. And again, that's based on the middle of year data that was presented by Dr. Lawton. And so we'll use that to guide our revisions for fiscal year 26. The next part of the presentation will be to discuss the programmatic monitoring by Department of Education. Each year, we're monitored by the Department of Education through desktop audits where they ask us to send information to them through the desktop computer. But this year, we're selected for on-site programmatic monitoring. And so this is conducted by the Department of Education. This is to basically see evidence that we're using the funds to support student outcomes. And so we've started this process with site leaders to collect information and also at the district level with the teaching and learning department. There are several areas within the programmatic monitoring that we're responsible for providing evidence. The next slide here shows the key timeline and the dates of the monitoring process. And again, as I said, there's a desktop monitoring review where they've asked that we provide documents to send through the computer, through the desktop, where they will review and provide feedback to us. They'll give us a period of time, as you can see, to make any adjustments, to add any additional information. And then they'll schedule the on-site audit. So we'll have several sites. Site leaders will host walkthroughs with the Department of Education. There'll be an interview process with staff who are paid through the grant to ensure alignment between what has been submitted and how we're actually utilizing the grant. So each site and the district create their action plans to show how they'll use the funds in order to improve student achievement in English and in math. And again, this meeting will be scheduled. We'll prep the district and the site leaders so that everyone is on board and prepared so that there's no surprises during ADE's on-site audit. And then at the end, there will be a determination meeting in April where the Department of Education will review all of the documents that have been submitted and give us a determination letter, which could have findings. It could result in areas of growth of opportunity, or it could be a standard determination letter where they check and show that we are in compliance in all areas. But we are planning for that. It's January, so we have 4 months for that. And then last, this is our fiscal year 27 budget process. So as you can see, during the school year, we're working in 3 fiscal years. We're in the previous year closing out the completion reports. We're in the current year, and then we're planning for the next school year. And so right now, our school leaders are working. They'll come together next week, and we will take a look at their budgets. We'll take a look at their integrated action plans. We'll look at their goals, look at how monies were spent in the current school year to determine our course of action, our planning for the budget for next school year at the district level and at the site level. And so as you can see, here's a process here. And last, the district, we will submit the budget based on the needs of the district and the sites. And we'll have ADE review that. Our goal is to submit our application by the end of March, early April. It is due to the Department of Education by May 1st. So we want to submit early, timely, so that we can engage with the department for a review process or a timely submission and approval. So this ends the presentation. I'm happy to address any questions or concerns. Dr. Lawton is here, can answer as well from the programmatic side and teaching and learning.
Does the board have any questions?
I do, Madam President.
Fernandez?
Mr. Harris, I'd like to ask what, with the Title I and all those programs that we have, what are they looking for in definite to see if we're in compliance?
Yes, thank you, Board Member Hernandez. As you saw before, Dr. Lawton presented data. So we have set goals in English and math in order to improve the outcomes in those subject areas. And so the district and the site, we've hired staff members in order to address those areas of concern through the academic coach, the parent educators, the paraprofessionals. There are monies for before and after school tutoring. So they're going to come and they're going to look at those areas in the budget and look at it on the programmatic side in action to see if it is really carried out as stated on the paper and the plans, and ultimately, will it ultimately lead to the gains that we establish in our goals.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Anybody else? I have a question.
Yes.
So in your FY 2680 grant parametric monitoring, I noticed that in slide 13 and it mentions school may host walkthroughs. And I know that in Dr. Lily's presentation, she also mentioned, you could clarify, those percentage that you also mentioned on the walkthroughs, is that related also? So what you're telling me, these have to happen in order for us to continue getting the grants, correct? That's what you're trying when they come in and they do that? We have to literally meet all these skylines in order for us to start continuing. So what was the percentage on the walkthroughs that you told us?
So, Madam President, the percentage that I spoke to and that speaks closely to the SEI and Title I have a lot to do with our SEI classroom. So, academic language and those indicators related to that are encompassed within that. When the auditors come and do classroom walkthroughs, they have their own little checklist. In the past, I have seen them checking to see if there's an objective posted. Sometimes they look to see if there's vocabulary up. They also check to see if the teacher knows who the SEI students are. But that's just one example of what they may be looking for. For Title I, they may be visiting after school programming and ensuring that the plans that were set out that we're receiving funding for are playing out in our schools and our classrooms. So usually for monitoring, they bring their own
They bring their own. Okay.
checklist. Um,
And how often do they come and do this?
Well, we have cycles in federal programs, and each year there's different requirements. And as I said earlier, there are desktop requirements, but this year we are in monitoring, and that is a cycle that's established by the Department of Education. So each year they tell us if it's going to be desktop or if they're going to come out and audit us in person.
They didn't just show up surprised. They usually let us know.
They can surprise, they can show up, but as you can see here in the schedule, this was sent out. This was sent out and it was shared to us, and so we have ample amount of time in order to prepare for this.
Okay. I'm just making sure that they show up and we don't want to lose any of the grants. Making sure that
No,
we're
well,
doing everything.
well,
that
we've
we-
already started the process internally with our own walkthroughs, and as Dr. Mesalima has stated, and you were there, so we have walkthroughs, but we've also have interviews. So everyone who is paid in the grant, we are working to ask, if you're an academic coach paid through the grant, what do you do outside of an academic coach? And so that is how we can target and work to ensure that everyone is performing their duties within the job descriptions that were board approved.
I just want to, like I said, just making sure that we're all working together and making sure that, because we're already tight as it is, and making sure that we just continue keeping that money. So, okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam
Thank you very
President.
much. Okay, next we have approval of the 2026-2027 proposed school calendar. Ms. Silvia Carizosa, Executive Director of Employee Relations, and Ms. Andrea Valencia, IDA President, Teacher Information, Discussion and Action. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
second.
Okay, Ms. Carizosa.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Lillian Isaac, community members. This evening, Ms. Andrea Valencia and I will co-present. We will be reviewing the calendar committee work, share the results from stakeholder input for the 2026-2027 school year academic calendar. Okay. School year academic calendar. So I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Valencia, who will kick us off, and then I will also support. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. So here we have is those who were a part of the committee. Our goal was to create a calendar that balances instructional requirements with the well-being of our students and staff. We have a wide collective that represented the committee, as you see right there in front of you, focusing on two viable options that from the start and end dates and staff return windows. Our common ground for both options provide the mandated 180 instructional days that include the identical fall, Thanksgiving, winter, and spring breaks within both. The difference is in option A, the August start date is on the 3rd and ends May 25th. Option B, we start earlier on the 30th, a Thursday, and then ends on May 21st. The impact was that option B requires staff to return 4 days earlier than we would have to in July than we normally do, from July 23rd versus July 27th. Here you have, we did have a high participation rate within the district. We received over 200 responses from a diverse cross-section of parents, staff, and students. Which is really rare that we actually had this high amount of participation, which is great because now we had about, as you see, 85 preferred option A within staff, parents, 85% of them preferred option A, as well as students, 65%. And then you can see the breakdown within the next couple of slides as to this is the participation engagement between teacher, staff, and parent, which is we had a high rate, no, you're fine, a high engagement within the parents. And then the next slide shows the breakdown within each site.
And I will continue with sharing a little bit more of the breakdown in regards to the input that we received from stakeholders. As Ms. Valencia mentioned, we did have input from both staff, parents, and guardians, and then this year new would be a small cohort of scholars, and I will get into more details in the upcoming slides. So first and foremost, the input from our teacher or staff, really there was overwhelmingly staff wanted option A, excuse me, as this ensures that they get mental reset, which they believe will improve teacher retention and decrease early year absences. Teachers also advocated for a Monday start day in option A to establish immediate, consistent weekly routines with their scholars. And then finally, our teacher and staff community members expressed a clear mandate to protect the end of July for family time and also preferring that August 3rd for start, even when it will have implications on ending slightly later in May. In regards to our input from, let me change the slide here, for parents, maybe I did that one first, but now in regard to the parents, parents strongly preferred starting on Monday to establish a clear weekly routine again for their families, for their children. They did make some comments about the significant concern about the heat that we obviously face in July, the extreme weather concerns. And so they also viewed August 3rd as an option for them that they feel would warrant what is best for them and their family, all things considered. Also, many parents noted that the late start in July respectfully, quote unquote, threw things off for them and their family members. So they wanted to stick to a more traditional calendar as they are accustomed to. Okay, I think I shared that one. So I apologize for the slides kind of being out of order, but I shared the staff analysis of the parents. And so key takeaways from both, obviously, as Ms. Valencia mentioned, this is rare, but there was a high alignment between staff and parents, both groups wanting and favoring option A, which starts on August 3rd. And then, of course, they also shared that they wanted to keep to the traditional calendar, start on a Monday, and realizing that we would have a later end date in May. Here you have the breakdown of the participation and their votes accordingly. And so wait, that ends there. So here you see our student data. Student data, as I shared earlier, it's our first time that we were allowed to, not allowed, but provided the opportunity for our Superintendent Student Advisory Council, and thanks to Ms. Preston, who led this effort, along our support with Mr. Jose, who allowed our scholars during one of their monthly meetings to engage in the voting. Although we realize this is a small subgroup of our scholars, we do know that they represent, and this is part of their role in this council. So here you see what they voted for. Again, it's a limited amount of subgroups. 20 students were there that day. Out of the 20, you see the breakdown of which options they preferred. And as I mentioned, you'll only see 3 schools here because our council is made out of our middle school scholars. And the students also shared their input in regards to which calendar they preferred. Again, the majority of them preferred option A. They also noted that that's probably what their families and parents wanted. They shared that that's what they're used to, and they wanted to stick to what they said, quote unquote, the normal schedule. Again, just some key takeaways there that I've already shared. Overall, there was the option A is what actually the majority of the 3 subgroups elected. And so respectfully, this evening, we end this presentation by recommending that the board approves option A. And we're happy to entertain any questions you may have of us.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Yes, Madam President, I do. Ms. Carrizosa and
Ms. Valencia?
Valencia, was there ever the jumpstart on our calendar at all prior?
That's a good question, board member Ms. Hernandez. So Jumpstart isn't indicated because it's not part of our academic calendar. But however, we do plan for it, but that is not typically something that we have added to our academic calendar.
Okay.
But I will say we do plan for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Any further questions? So call for the vote for option A. Okay, motion carries. Okay, next we have adoption of second reading of policy section F and possible adoption of policy for section F. Dr. Mesa Lema, interim superintendent. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Mesa Lema.
Madam President, members of the board, ISAC community, the moment you have been waiting for. I continue to our process to update our policy manual to align with the model policies by the Arizona School Board Association, consultation with our district legal counsel. For this agenda item, I bring the second reading of section F in our policy book titled Facilities Development. The second reading encompasses the revisions outlined during the first reading and is now presented to you, followed by discussion and possible approval. Section F has the following policies with clarifying language updates, FA and FF, and no changes to policies FCB and policy FEA. And that concludes my reading of section F.
Okay, any questions? If not, call for the vote to approve. Okay, motion carries. Next, E, adoption of second reading of policy section GA through GBED and possible adoption of policy book section GA through GEB. Dr. Lily Mesalema, interim superintendent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Mesalema?
Madam President, members of the board and ISAC community, for the second reading, the initial part of Section G. Section G is one of our longest sections in our policy book titled Personnel, Policies GA through GBED. The second reading encompasses the revisions outlined during my first reading of this policy section and is now presented to you for possible approval.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Any discussion?
I'm gonna,
Oh, you're not done?
I'm gonna
I'm so
read through.
sorry.
I'm gonna
Dr.
read my summary here. Policies and regulations and exhibits with clarifying language include policy GBAR, policy GBECEA, policy GBECB. The policies and exhibits with administrative updates or not substantive changes include policy GBEAAE, which updates our address, and that's it. The rest of the policies have no changes made to them.
Okay. Any questions? Call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Next, adoption of first reading of policy book section H. Dr. Lily Mesalema, interim superintendent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Dr. Mesalema?
Madam President, members of the board, the first reading of section H is meet and confer, which has one policy, and there are no recommended changes to this one policy. Since we're doing a whole policy review, this one policy section must be brought to you for your review and in alignment with the process that we have been following for this first reading. I request your approval for this first reading of section H, policy HD, which has no changes.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, call for the vote. Motion carries. Next, adoption of first reading of policy book section I through IHAMD. Dr. Lily Mesalema, interim superintendent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Dr. Mesalema?
Madam President, members of the board, ISAC community, in this agenda item, I bring to you the first reading of section I, which is another long one. So we're going to be doing a section for the section titled Instructional Programs, and we're focusing on policies IA through IHAMD. As was the case for the previous sessions, this first reading, I will present the summary of all changes, followed by the board's discussion, and request to approve this first reading of this particular subsection. Policy IA maintains the current policy. Policy IB maintains that current policy. There are no changes. Policy IC, also no changes. Policy ID maintain the current policy. Policy IE adopts the clarifying language from the model policy and maintains all other previously adopted language. Policy IGA updates the legal references, adopts clarifying language from the model policy, and keeps the previous adopted language text. Policy IGD adopts the language from the model policy, adds the subheadings for clarity, and maintains all other previously adopted language. Policy IGE maintains the current policy. Regulation IGER maintains the current regulation with no changes. Policy IHA adds a literacy course, expands social studies to include civics and the Holocaust instructions, and adjusts the grade levels from 7 through 12 to those that we service grades 7 and 8. Remove the minimum course of study requirements for high school. Keep clarification that it is not a legal holiday for Sandra Day O'Connor, and adopts the updates to legal references. Policy IHAE, the exhibit, adopts the language from the model policy to clarify literacy coach as being added. Policy IHAA maintains the current policy. Policy IHAAR, no changes. Policy IHAL, there are no changes. Policy IHAMA, updates to the legal references. Remove references to specific grade levels 9 through 12 and maintains all other previously adopted language. Policy IHAMB, updates to legal references, removes references to specific grade levels 9 through 12, maintain all other previously adopted language. Policy IHAMBR adopts the recommended language from the model policy, removes references to specific grade levels 9 through 12, and maintains all other previously adopted language. Policy IHAMC updates the title of this policy from HIV/AIDS education to instruction and training in cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Adopts the recommended language from the model policy. Policy IHAMD adopts the recommended language from the model policy by adding a subheading, student identification cards, and removes the references to specific grade levels 9 through 12. And that concludes my first reading of the subsection of policy section I.
Does the board have any questions? Dr. Lilly, I do have a question. I'm reading the policy of IHAMBR, which is Family Life Education. This is probably one that I'll probably get with you. I'm just curious. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just curious to know, as a governing board, because it mentions us here several times, of things that we should be doing and not be doing regarding to the instruction in sex education. So I'll just, since this is the first reading, that's probably something that I would love to discuss with you on that.
I can definitely clarify. Can you please repeat
It
the
is
policy?
IHAMB-R, Family Life Education. It's very lengthy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Next, do I have a motion to approve the whole consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Next is call to the public. Do we have any call to the public?
Madam President, this evening we do not have any requests to address the governing board.
Thank you. Next, enrollment, average daily membership, and average daily attendance. Our enrollment is 4,453. Average daily membership, 3,890, and average daily attendance, 3,796. Calendar, parent-teacher conferences is going to be February 11th through the 13th. And our next governing regular board meeting will be held Thursday, February 12th, here at the district office. Now we move on to a motion and possible action to convene to executive session pursuant to ARS 38431.0383, discussion and consultation with legal advice with attorney of the public body data system update. Is there a motion? Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, call for the vote. Motion carries. The other one is B, motion and possible action to convene to executive session pursuant to ARS 384310-387 and A3, discussion and consultation with designated representative of the public body in order to consider its position and instruct the representatives regarding the negotiations of a purchase, sale, or lease of a real property, and discussion and consultation for legal advice with the attorney of public body, sell or lease a real property, update from the receiver. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote. Myron. Thank you. So now we go to executive session. Have a good evening. I just need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Oh, no, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't need a motion. A motion to reconvene the meeting from executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
I'm sorry.
The
Second.
Second.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, now we are, and there's no objections, meeting adjourned.